explore some practical ways to make our Zoom sessions more interactive and engaging for our audiences. So before we dive in, we would like to introduce ourselves.
My name's Mary Paris. I'm an instructional designer at the Wilmington campus.
And my name is Allison Voss. I'm an instructional designer at the Owens campus. We're super excited you're here with us today to explore these features, and we hope that you can walk away with some really practical strategies that you might find useful to incorporate in your Zoom sessions. So here's our plan for today. Like I said, this session is going to be interactive. So we'll first start off with a little icebreaker, and then we'll explore some key Zoom features, and embedded throughout are going to be some interactive demonstrations. Finally, we'll wrap up with sharing a few resources and ending with some Q&A.
So we're going to start with some tools that you've probably already heard of, but we really want to discuss them with the lens of how they can be used for engagement. And as our session goes on, we'll be talking about some tools that might be a little less familiar to you. So for the icebreaker, we're starting with something that I think a lot of us have probably used. We're going to do a temperature check and use either Zoom reactions or emojis in the chat, whatever you enjoy the most, to just tell us how you're all feeling. If you decide to throw something into the chat, feel free to respond to each other. But how are we all doing today?
Oh, Jason.
Who let him in?
What?
Who let him in? All right, I'm getting some peace signs, some hearts. Love it. I think that's a great way to capture like a sort of happy, peaceful kind of mood. Love it. All right. So as we saw, that was a fun way to just kind of check in really quickly and see how everyone is doing. But it also gave me some real-time feedback. So this would be great if you'd gone over maybe a complicated concept in class and you wanted to just see like who's overwhelmed, who feels like they have it, who needs a nap, just to gauge how your students are doing. It also is a nice way to break up the lecture just for a couple seconds so you're not losing a lot of time, but it gives students an opportunity to just have a little fun and maybe get re-energized for the rest of the class conversation. We're going to try out another option that leverages the chat feature. So again, something we're all used to using, but maybe a different way we can use it. What we're going to do is there's a question on the screen. What's one Zoom feature you already use to engage students? And you're going to put your answer in the chat, but you're not going to send it off yet. Don't hit enter. So everyone take a minute, queue up a feature that you use. Are we all ready? When I count to 3, you're all going to send your responses. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, go for it. All right. So this is called a waterfall chat. You see how there were all these responses coming in really quickly? And in fairness, we have a more, I was going to say small, but I want something with better connotations. We've got an exclusive group today. So imagine that with a larger audience and all these responses coming in. And it does a really nice job of simulating that in-class, really animated discussion where everybody's kind of chiming in. And it, again, gives students the opportunity to feel like they're interacting not just with you, but with each other. So that's another thing we could use, and we can combine that with our reactions or our emojis, for example, to gauge sentiment or just to get students talking. So these are some fun, easy ways to break up, maybe a big lesson, maybe a heavy chunk of content, and get your students feeling like you're still checking in on them and they're still, there with you.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, some of you are probably familiar with polls and surveys and quizzes in Zoom, but I just think it's an awesome feature that we want to highlight just in case you aren't too familiar. So polls and surveys and quizzes are fantastic for breaking the ice or checking in with your students or even sneaking in a low stakes formative assessment. And you can use them at the beginning, middle, or end of your session. So I have one ready to launch. I'm going to send a little poll here for you. And the one I'm going to send is called a single choice poll. And there are only 2 options. So when I hit launch, you should see it pop up on your screen. Which superpower would you rather have? Invisibility when you're awkward? Oh, or the ability to mute people in real life? Right. So I see 8 out of 8 have answered. And when I click end poll, you'll be able to see the results. I'm going to share the results right now. So the winner is invisibility when you're awkward. There we go. All right. So on our next little section here, I just want to talk about the differences between the three here that we can have in Zoom. They might seem similar. I mean, they all ask questions, but each one plays a slightly different role in your Zoom session. Polls are really great for that quick real-time engagement, and you might want to use them just to break the ice, check prior knowledge before getting started, or just get a quick pulse check during a lesson. And they're low stakes. They allow everyone to participate without speaking out loud. So these really give all students a voice. Quizzes are more structured, and they're best when you want to reinforce some key content or check for understanding. You can choose to make them graded or not if you want to, take a grade for that, but it's flexible based on your goals. Surveys are great for collecting feedback, usually, sent out at the end of a session. They can just give you insight into what your students or your audience learned, how they felt about your session or the experience, and maybe including a question about what they're still wondering about. And they're usually anonymous, so you'll often get some more honest responses that way. When used together, these tools can really help you create a more interactive and student-centered class without a lot of extra effort. So in this next session, this next section, I'm going to walk you through how to set up a poll or a quiz. Zoom lets you create a bank of polls ahead of time, and then you're easily able to access them when you're live in your Zoom session, just like how I launched the poll to you. So first, you're going to log into your Zoom account through your browser. And then you're going to want to make sure that you sign in using SSO, and you'll type in DTCC. And once you're in, you'll see on the left-hand side, find surveys. And this is where all of your polls that you create, this is where they live. Anything you save is going to be stored there. To create a new one, you'll go to that blue box, create, and then select the type you want. I focused on polls for this session. But you can choose either one. And once you're there, you can give your poll a title, which I forgot to do. You can see that it says Untitled Poll 1. But then you'll title it, write your question, and select the type of question you want to send out. So there's all different types, and we'll explore a little bit more about those later. So for this one, I chose single choice, and I am going to end up having 4 choices there. And I just take note at the bottom where it says required or show in dropdown. You can select to show your responses in like a dropdown menu, or you can, if you leave that unchecked, then they'll be there all 4 on the screen. You can also select required. And then when you're done, you will click save and it's ready to use. It'll be there in your page there on your Zoom account. You can edit it as well, and you can preview it to make sure it's what you really want it to be. And then you'll be able to launch it when you're in your Zoom session.
All right. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about a tool that, again, we're all familiar with, but I want us to consider using it in a different way, and that's screen sharing and co-hosting. Screen sharing, we usually think of as something that instructors do, but it doesn't have to just be for instructors. Allowing students to present or share their work increases participation and creates a more engaging and student-centered environment. For example, in a high flex setting, having students share their screens or even share hosting abilities can help connect on-campus students with those students who are taking the course in a distance format, and just help them, get some FaceTime with each other, see each other's work, that sort of thing. Co-hosting is also nice because it can support seamless management of Zoom sessions, particularly in large meetings or classrooms. So for example, if it's there's a lot of people involved, and maybe you want to have a co-host in case the current host has to step away or loses their connection. That has happened sometimes. So it's just kind of a little bit of security to make sure that the class session, the study session, whatever it is that that meeting is for, doesn't get interrupted. This can also be useful to leverage if you have a guest speaker joining your class, if you want to bring in a subject matter expert to discuss a special topic with your students. So there are a lot of ways that we can use screen sharing in a novel way to try and help students feel more engaged and like part of the class. Now, I do want to mention a couple of caveats here. While this is a great opportunity to give students, you wouldn't want to necessarily spring that on them. So if you wanted to give students the opportunity to do this, you want to make sure they know ahead of time so that they can make sure their workstation is set up appropriately, make sure they feel comfortable following the steps to share their screen. Maybe they have some time ahead to practice. And of course, they have time to ensure that they're in an environment where they feel comfortable being on camera, sharing their screen, all those things. You know, we want to be sensitive to what our students may need to feel comfortable taking that extra step. But that shouldn't dissuade us from at least trying it or giving students the opportunity if they are interested. So in the same vein as screen sharing, I wanted to talk about a tool that, to be perfectly transparent, I hadn't used much before today's presentation, but I think it has a lot of potential for a wide variety of different Zoom applications, and that's the Annotation Tool. So very quickly, if you would, take a look at your Zoom screen and see if you see in the bottom left corner a green circle that has like a pencil icon in it. Give me a thumbs up if you find it. Otherwise, we're going nowhere fast. All right,
And
I
if
see
you
a thumbs
don't,
up from Allie.
yeah, if you don't see it, you have to hover your mouse over the presentation that's showing on the screen, then you'll find it.
So what I have for us to work with today is a really riveting essay on the printing press. April Fool's, it's terrible. And what I want to do, and I'm kind of going back to my old life, my English teacher days, what I want to do is show you how we could really use this to encourage students to participate, interact with each other, even do some group activities. So when I open up my annotate menu, first of all, do we all see the essay? Before I get ahead of myself, I was so excited. Awesome. Okay. So we have our standard drawing tool. Now, there are different options within that drawing tool. Obviously, we can adjust the line width, we can change the shape of it. I'm going to come back to some of these, but just for basics, I'm going to show you how I can pick a color. I see us all experimenting. We found a problem here, yes. So we can underline, we could circle things that are a problem, like this word stuff here. We're missing an S here. I promise I'm not going to make this a grammar lesson. That would be a bait and switch. But we can have a lot of fun with this. And it can also be used for positive feedback. So we have a stamping tool. So if there's something that was really well done, we could put a star, or we could put a heart. Or if we're not sure we understand, we could put a question mark. So I think we're already kind of seeing the possibilities to have some fun with this. But what I really love about it is I think it lends itself well to a lot of different activities for different subjects. So you could have math problems up here, or you could have some sort of analysis for your subject. So I'm working with a marketing course right now. And maybe you've got someone doing some sort of product analysis and maybe they didn't do a good job. So negative examples or weak examples are a great way for students to learn how to do a better job themselves. This also lends itself really well to group assignments. I could break you all into groups and I could say, all right, Bobby, Larry, Susan, I want you to use the color blue and you write anything that you find that could be better in paragraph 1, and then give a different group a different color in a different paragraph. There's even a really fun feature in this drawing tool where you have a vanishing pen. So if you wanted to maybe give your students a hint real quick, you could write something and then little by little it fades away and it's gone. So a couple of things to keep in mind about this feature. You can see here there is an erase button. So as the host, I can erase anything that someone else wrote. And that is useful. Just because, let's say you have a student who's not keeping things PG-13, right? They're going in there and they're writing bad words. You can erase those. But students cannot erase each other's. They can only erase, or I should say, other participants. So again, I think this has tons of potential, even for more casual settings. Let's say you decide to take an office hour and turn it into a Zoom study session for your students, and you've got some extra problems or some extra samples for them to look at, and then they can all kind of be working together. You could be chiming in, redirecting them, giving them that instant feedback and interaction. And there's a highlighter feature. We can also save this work. So for today, when I stop sharing my screen, the notes are gone. And, for just an in-class session, some interaction, maybe we don't need to keep them, but maybe you had a lot of students absent that day, and maybe there are some good observations or some good notes here. You can save it, and then maybe you put that in the D2L course page so that everyone can kind of benefit from that activity. All right, so I see a question. Do you have to turn on the Annotate tool in a session, or is it defaulted to? I believe that is a default setting. I did not have to turn that on.
I
If
agree.
anyone,
I think it is default. Yeah.
and Laura said that there's a note that everyone can see info you add and the work can be saved. So that's good. There's transparency here. It's a good thing to talk through with your students. But honestly, I think this is just a lot of fun to play with, and judging from all the hearts and stars that I see, I think we all did have some fun too.
It is a lot of fun. I had so much fun working with this and exploring. I actually learned so much doing this section of the PD here. So this next part, we're going to explore a very powerful engagement tool in Zoom, the whiteboard. First, we are going to just think about how or discover how whiteboards are really going to spark collaboration and engagement. And I'm going to first have you guys look at the annotation tools. And those are things very similar to what we just did with Mary for the screen sharing. There's even a few more in the whiteboards, so that'll be really cool. Then we're going to look at templates and uploading features. So a really cool thing is you can bring in documents, PDFs, even videos, and then you can build activities around them. And I have some examples already lined up to show you that. This is just a really great way to have interactive lessons online and group brainstorming. So I'll show you how to take a template in Zoom and then how to make it what you want it to be for your course. And then we're going to practice with sticky notes and stamps and reflection prompts, which are all great tools for check-ins and getting feedback, sparking discussion. So these whiteboards just make it really easy for everyone to participate, even the folks that, are usually quiet. So I am going to start by sharing the whiteboard that I've created for this session. And you can think of it almost as like slides. So I have, I think, 5 or 6 pages is what they're called, but I pre-made them. They're all ready to go with what I wanted us to focus on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my whiteboard. So I'm going to go to our first page here. And this is page 1 of the whiteboard activity that I created. So I wanted to just, before we really went into everything in depth, I wanted to just make sure everyone knew how to navigate a whiteboard on Zoom. So the box number 2 that has helpful tips, I'd like you just to read through that and just play around for a minute. Play with panning the whiteboard. So that's like clicking using your right mouse button or clicker to click that and move around and drag it so that you can see other parts of the canvas is what they call it. You can also zoom in and out to get closer to some things. whenever you click on something, you may have to go back over to the toolbar on the left-hand side and click that blue box that has the white arrow on it. And then that gives you back that option to select. So if ever you're on something and you're like, I can't click it or it's being odd, check that arrow to make sure that's on. So go ahead and complete box 3. Since it's lunch and learn, I'm curious, if you could teleport anywhere for lunch today, where would you go? There's a couple of different ways that you can get a new sticky note. So one cool thing is you can just press the letter N and then a new one pops up. You can drag it over if we need more. Or you can go ahead and go to that left toolbar and find the sticky note icon and click that. All right. And then you guys see, so I like how Olivia, you did Maudie's, she used the pen tool, right? Olivia, is that what you did? Okay, perfect. I love that. And then whoever did the Italy one, I see they changed their font. So you can play around with it, have some fun. You can also add, if you look at that toolbar, the very last icon is a smiley face. You can add some stickers, stamps, emojis. Like I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heart. I'm going to put a stamp on this Italian one and Maudie's. You can add some GIFs as well. And I think that's really pretty fun for our students to know they're into all of that. Can you save whiteboards? Yes, you can. That's something I was going to talk about as well. You can absolutely save whiteboards if you are, like, let's say you have a session and you have students who are absent and you don't want them to miss out on whatever activity you've done, then you can download this as a PDF and it'll download every page that you have as a separate PDF with all of the content already on there that your students added. All of the, like the white and the green boxes, those are called frames, and they're over on the side of that toolbar too. So that's how I created those, just as kind of just to visually draw your eyes to that. The template that you see here is one that I just grabbed from Zoom. So on your toolbar, on your left-hand side, find the one that says templates. It's above the arrow. And if you click there, you'll be able to see that there are all these pre-made templates there that you could choose from. And some of them, you know, there's even like icebreakers, team builders, there's brainstorming ones, different ones for research. So you can see I took this one. It was just a meeting reflection. And I didn't want to use it as is. So my next page is how I do want to use it, which is just having a question. And then I have some directions here. And my question for you is, what's your current teaching energy? How are you feeling right now? Well, we're in the spring semester. So you can do a couple of different things. You can write your name on a sticky note and put it in the box, or you can just write your name, explore with the pen feature. You can even type your name if you want to, instead of using a sticky note, but it's just up to you. I see. So we have some focus on learning something new, hanging in there. Olivia, are you between the two? I love that. Very creative.
I'm still eager to learn, but
you're hanging in there. I love it. So you can see how this could just be a great way to, like we talked about earlier, get a pulse check on your class, on how your students are, on how your students are doing. I love that. So don't click this yet. Don't click the video there in the center yet. And we're not going to watch this one. This is just an example. But I found this out that you can upload a video. You can embed a video from YouTube directly into your whiteboard page. And I was thinking, okay, how could this be used in a Zoom class? And you could do something like have the students watch the video and then just use sticky notes to record any thoughts or questions or ideas. then having them maybe collaborate with each other, maybe leaving like little stickers or leaving more sticky notes. And Jennifer, I see your question actually about a phone or a tablet, and that is something I'm gonna talk about for sure. I have my husband, he was my guinea pig, and I made him join on a phone, and I will tell you about that experience. That was gonna be a big thing I talked about for, especially for, like you said, high flex. So I'll get to that very soon. One thing about the video. So it plays individually. So if I play it here, it's not going to play for everyone. You are in charge of, or the student is in charge of playing it on their own. So if you are on a Zoom session and you're going to say to, your students, okay, I want you to watch this video and do blah, 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 whatever. Make sure you have them mute themselves, because that was something that happened last night or the other day when I was practicing, actually. When they started playing the video, I, of course, heard that. And you'll also need to click the start button, or you'll need to click it 2 times. So if everyone's muted, then go ahead and just play around with it. I think you're going to have to click it once and then maybe allow it to play and then hit play again. Honestly, joining on a phone is not great. It is very small. It's way too small to really, at least my husband's experience, and he is not tech savvy. So it might be better for a tech savvy student, but my husband is not at all tech savvy. So he did struggle with joining on his phone. Even like when Mary was screen sharing and had to find that green button, the pencil button, it was very difficult for him to find that. It was just too small. Now a tablet might be okay because it's a bigger space, but I do think it would probably be best if they're on a laptop for sure. And I know that can't always happen. But I do think, just having that disclaimer out there, maybe giving a heads up, hey, we're going to use a whiteboard, and it would be best if you are, not using your phone. And I know sometimes that's not always possible, but giving that heads up might be really helpful. You can also, just like you can embed a video, you can also embed a PDF. So this is actually a book from one of my classes I'm taking right now. And I uploaded it. When you click it, so if everyone can go ahead and click it, you can swipe through the book and see all the pages. You can remember to zoom in, because I know sometimes it might look small, but you can zoom in. And I thought, how great could this be to increase collaboration? You can assign groups in your Zoom session. You can have certain students working together, and then assign some pages. Like you can see, I just went through, and this group is chapter 1. This group is chapter 2. And then having them complete some kind of task. I mean, whatever you would want. I just said key points and any questions you may have. But I thought, what a great way to have students work together while exploring content. So that's another really cool feature of a Zoom whiteboard. And you could have them write, on these, to me, look like little anchor charts. You could have them use a pen to write, or you could have them type. Probably typing would be easier for them. But yeah, that's another little feature. And then the last page I have is just a blank page. If you wanted to play around with anything, you can head to that last page here and just explore if you want to. While you are playing around with whatever you want to, I'm going to say just a couple of helpful things that I had to learn through trial and error with this if you want to use it. It's really important to lock certain things that you don't want your students to move. So if I, let's say, had any of my slides, any of my pages up, and I didn't lock, like, let's say that book, students could move that book around, or any of the templates where they're doing their, like there's the quadrants, they can move any of that stuff around. So just make sure you can highlight and lock it. What else? There was a few other little things. Oh, just the fonts. You can change fonts. adding like that little box around things just to highlight things that you want them to pay close attention to, like for directions. Jennifer says, any other UDL setups recommend for the templates to help accommodate students' needs? Where does it say? Notice the zoom in and out of the book wouldn't lock, so it went smaller on each page turn. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I was just trying a couple of different things on the device here in the office, and without zooming in the first time. So if I clicked on it at its original size and got it to the correct size, then on the next page turn, it went back to the original.
Oh, okay. I see. It's not on my end, it's not doing that, but it could be because we have maybe different devices. I'm not sure, but that's a really good point to just highlight the fact that this may be a different experience for students depending on the device they're using. Yeah, thanks for calling that out. That's really helpful.
But what we really wanted to reinforce is that engagement isn't about knowing every single tool and making sure you're using them all. It's about really using the right one for the situation. So I would take a minute to just reflect on what feature do you plan to implement first, and maybe think about just for a particular lesson, and also your goal. So do you feel like you start to lose students halfway through class, in which case a quick little check-in might be a good idea just to wake everybody up, get them having to interact with you. Or maybe there's a concept that a lot of students really struggle with, in which case a poll might be a great way to assess how many students feel comfortable with it, how many students feel like maybe they could use some more review or practice. And then the screen sharing and the co-hosting really does a lot of that rapport and community building, as well as helping students to help each other. And we saw that whiteboards, there's kind of no limit to what they can do. We want to be mindful of some of those accessibility issues that came out of it. We certainly wouldn't want our technology tools to have the opposite effect and perhaps make things less available to certain students. But with the right planning, with checking in and making sure the resources are available, that's another way to make sure that we are kind of changing things up regularly. So just give a think. What's a lesson coming up where you feel like you've got a problem that maybe one of these tools could help you address? Well, thank you as always for joining us. I know everybody is super busy. It feels like we're getting fresh things to do all the time. And I know how valuable everyone's time is. So we sincerely appreciate that you spent some time with us today. Hopefully you walk away with one or two tools to keep in your back pocket for the future.
Thank you all so much.